June 14th, 1986. A Saturday morning in rural Pennsylvania. 200 guests arrived at St. Michael's Church for what should have been the wedding of the year. The groom stood at the altar. The bridesmaids were in position. The organist played the wedding march. But the bride never walked down the aisle because 20 minutes before the ceremony, she vanished. Her name was Sarah Mitchell, 23 years old, schoolteacher, loved by everyone in her small town of Meadowbrook, population 3,000. Her fiancé, Michael Connor, had known her since childhood. They dated for 6 years. He'd proposed on Christmas Eve. The whole town had been planning this wedding for months. And then, in the space of 20 minutes, she was gone. No note, no explanation, no body. Her car was still in the church parking lot, keys in the ignition. Her purse was in the bridal room. Her shoes, white satin heels she'd bought 3 months earlier, were on the floor beside her makeup bag. But Sarah Mitchell had disappeared. The FBI was called within hours. State police launched the largest search in Pennsylvania history. Bloodhounds tracked her scent to the woods behind the church and then lost it. Helicopters searched for 3 days. Dive teams searched the nearby lake. Volunteers combed 40 square miles of forest. Nothing. The investigation went on for months, then years, then decades. Michael Connor never married. Sarah's parents never gave up hope. The case went cold. And then, 38 years later, in the summer of 2024, something happened that changed everything. A letter arrived, addressed to Michael Connor, postmarked from a small town in Oregon, 2,000 miles away. Inside, just 7 words. I'm ready to tell you the truth. It was signed, Sarah. This is not a story about a crime. This is not a story about murder or kidnapping. This is a story about a choice, a secret that lasted 38 years, and a love that survived something most of us could never imagine. This is the true story of what happened to Sarah Mitchell, the woman who disappeared on her wedding day. Before we continue with Sarah's story, let us know in the comments where you're watching from. We'd love to hear from you. And don't forget to hit that subscribe button so you never miss any of our upcoming videos. We share true stories that challenge everything you thought you knew about love. To understand what happened, you have to understand where it started. Meadowbrook, Pennsylvania. A town where everyone knew everyone, where doors stayed unlocked, where the biggest scandal was usually who won the pie contest at the county fair. Sarah Mitchell grew up on Maple Street, 3rd house from the corner, oldest of 4 daughters. Her father ran the hardware store. Her mother taught Sunday school. She was the kind of girl everyone loved. Straight-A student, volleyball captain, volunteered at the library every Saturday. Michael Connor lived 2 streets over. His father owned the gas station. His mother worked at the post office. He was quiet, steady, reliable, the kind of boy fathers approved of. They met in 7th grade, started dating junior year of high school. Everyone assumed they'd get married someday. In a town like Meadowbrook, that's just how things worked. After graduation, Sarah went to State College 2 hours away to study education. Michael stayed in Meadowbrook, working at his father's station, saving money. They saw each other every weekend. She'd drive home Friday nights. They'd spend Saturdays together. She'd drive back Sunday evenings. For 4 years, they kept this routine. Long distance, but it worked. Michael was patient. Sarah was committed. When she graduated in 1985 and got a teaching job at Meadowbrook Elementary, everyone celebrated. Sarah was coming home. The wedding everyone had been waiting for could finally happen. Michael proposed on Christmas Eve 1985, in front of both families. Sarah's mother cried. Michael's father shook his hand. The whole town heard about it by morning. They set the date for June 14th, 1986. 6 months to plan. Sarah's mother took charge. Invitations were sent to the entire town. The reception was booked at the community center. Sarah found her dress at a bridal shop in Pittsburgh. Everything was perfect. Or so it seemed. But in the weeks leading up to the wedding, Sarah's sister Emily noticed something. Sarah was getting quieter, more withdrawn. She'd stare out windows during conversations. She'd forget what people said to her. Once, Emily found her crying in the bathroom. When asked what was wrong, Sarah just said she was stressed about the wedding. Emily didn't push. She figured it was just pre-wedding jitters. Everyone gets nervous before getting married, right? But there was something else Emily noticed. Sarah had started going for long walks, alone, sometimes for hours. She'd come back and wouldn't say where she'd been. Once, Emily followed her. Sarah walked to the lake, sat on the dock, just stared at the water for 2 hours. Didn't move, didn't read, didn't do anything, just sat. When Emily asked about it later, Sarah smiled and said she just needed to think. About what? Emily asked. Sarah's smile faded. About everything, she said. And then she changed the subject. June 14th, 1986. The morning started like every wedding morning. Sarah woke up at 6 a.m. in her childhood bedroom. Her 3 sisters were sleeping in the same room, a tradition. Her mother made pancakes. Her father kissed her forehead and told her she looked beautiful. At 8 a.m., the bridesmaids arrived. Hairstylists came, makeup artists. The photographers started taking pictures. Everyone said Sarah seemed fine, smiling, laughing, excited. But Emily, her maid of honor, noticed something. Sarah's hands were shaking, not from excitement, from something else. At 9:30, when everyone else was getting dressed, Sarah asked for a moment alone. She went into the bathroom. Emily heard her throw up. When she came out, her face was pale. "I'm fine," she said, "just nervous." At 10 a.m., they arrived at the church. 200 guests were already there. Michael was at the altar with his groomsmen. The church was decorated with white roses. Everything was perfect. Or so it seemed. Sarah went into the bridal room to put on her dress. Her mother, 3 sisters, and the bridesmaids were with her. They helped her into the gown, fixed her veil, handed her the bouquet. Sarah looked in the mirror, and according to Emily, that's when something changed in her eyes. "I need some air," she said. "Honey, we start in 10 minutes, her mother said. "I know, I need a minute, please." The women looked at each other. Weddings were stressful. Everyone needed a moment. "Okay," her mother said, "but just a minute, we can't be late." Sarah smiled, nodded, and walked out of the bridal room. She went down the hallway, turned left toward the back entrance, pushed open the door, and disappeared. 10:22 a.m. Sarah's father knocked on the bridal room door. "It's time," he said. The bridesmaids opened the door. They looked around. Sarah wasn't there. "She went outside for air," Emily said. "She should be back by now." They checked the parking lot. Her car was there. They checked the basement. Empty. 10:30, concern became worry. Someone called Sarah's house. No answer. They searched the entire church, every room, every closet, the bell tower, the basement storage. Nothing. 10:40, someone called the police. By 11 a.m., state police arrived. They found Sarah's purse in the bridal room, her wallet, her keys in her car in the ignition, her shoes, white satin heels she'd bought 3 months earlier, were on the floor beside her makeup bag. But Sarah Mitchell had disappeared. The FBI was called within hours. State police launched the largest search in Pennsylvania history. Bloodhounds tracked her scent to the woods behind the church and then lost it. Helicopters searched for 3 days. Dive teams searched the nearby lake. Volunteers combed 40 square miles of forest. Nothing. The investigation went on for months, then years, then decades. Michael Connor never married. Sarah's parents never gave up hope. The case went cold, and then, 38 years later, in the summer of 2024, something happened that changed everything. Before we continue, I want to know what you're thinking right now. What do you think happened to Sarah? Did she run away? Was she taken? Did something else happen? Drop your theory in the comments. And if you're as gripped by this story as we were researching it, hit that like button and share this with someone who loves true mysteries. Because what happened next, nobody saw coming. The disappearance of Sarah Mitchell became national news within 48 hours. Bride vanishes moments before wedding. FBI joins search for missing teacher. Small town in shock after woman disappears. The FBI took over the investigation. They had 3 theories. Theory 1, abduction. Someone had taken her from the woods. But there was no evidence of struggle, no witnesses, no ransom demand. The scent trail ending suggested she hadn't gone deeper into the woods. Theory 2, voluntary disappearance. She'd run away, cold feet taken to the extreme. But she'd left everything: purse, money, ID, keys. How do you disappear with nothing? Theory 3, suicide. The lake was a quarter mile from the church. Dive teams searched for 3 days. They found nothing. Michael Connor was questioned for hours. His alibi was airtight. He'd been at the church surrounded by 200 people. There was no history of abuse, no fights, no financial problems. Everyone said they were happy. Sarah's family cooperated fully. Her friends were interviewed, her students were questioned gently, her diary was examined. The diary entries were normal. Wedding planning, excitement about teaching, love notes about Michael. But investigators noticed something. The entries stopped 2 weeks before the wedding. Just stopped, as if Sarah had nothing more to say. Weeks became months. Sightings were reported. Sarah was seen in Ohio, in West Virginia, in Florida, in California. Every lead went nowhere. Every sighting was someone else. Michael Connor appeared on national television, begging for her to come home, telling her he loved her, that it was okay if she was scared, that he just wanted to know she was alive. He broke down crying on camera. Millions watched. Sarah's mother held a press conference 6 months later. She pleaded for anyone with information to come forward. "My daughter wouldn't just leave," she said. "Someone knows something. Please, please help us find her." But nobody came forward. 1 year anniversary, still missing. 2 years, no new leads. 5 years, case moved to cold cases. 10 years, FBI officially closed the active investigation. Sarah Mitchell was declared legally dead in 1993, 7 years after she disappeared. Her parents held a memorial service. 200 people came, the same 200 who'd come to her wedding. Michael Connor stood at the front of the church where he'd waited for her. He was 34 years old. He'd never dated anyone else. He gave a speech. "I don't believe she's gone," he said. "I think somewhere out there, Sarah is alive, and I hope she's happy. I hope she found whatever she was looking for. And if you can hear me, Sarah, wherever you are, I forgive you. And I hope someday you'll come home." He never married. He stayed in Meadowbrook, took over his father's gas station, lived a quiet life, alone. 31 more years passed. May 2024. 38 years after Sarah Mitchell disappeared. Michael Connor, now 62 years old, checked his mail like he did every day. Bills, advertisements, nothing special. And then he saw an envelope. No return address, postmarked from a small town in Oregon. Handwriting he hadn't seen in 38 years, but handwriting he recognized anywhere. His hands shook as he opened it. Inside, a single piece of paper. 7 words. "I'm ready to tell you the truth." Signed, Sarah. Michael stood in his driveway for 20 minutes, staring at the letter. Then he did what any of us would do. He got in his car, and he drove to Oregon. It took him 3 days, 2,000 miles, from Pennsylvania to the Oregon coast. The return address led him to a small coastal town, population 800, the kind of place people go to disappear. He found the house, a small cottage near the water, garden in front, wind chimes on the porch. He knocked on the door, and when it opened, he saw her, Sarah Mitchell, 61 years old now, gray hair, lines around her eyes, but unmistakably her. They stared at each other. 38 years. "Hello, Michael," she said. Her voice was the same. They sat in her living room. She made tea. Her hands shook as she poured. Michael didn't speak. He just waited. And then Sarah began to tell him what happened that day in 1986. She told him that when she walked out of the church that morning, she had no plan to run. She just needed air. She walked outside, stood in the parking lot, looked at the woods, and started walking. Not to run away, just to think. Just for 5 minutes of peace before her life changed forever. She walked into the woods, sat on a fallen log, and tried to breathe. That's when she heard it. A sound, like a voice calling her name. She looked around, nobody there, but she heard it again. Not an actual voice, something inside, something she'd been ignoring for months. A voice that said, "You don't have to do this." Sarah had loved Michael her whole life. He was kind, he was good, he would be a wonderful husband. But somewhere along the way, she'd realized something terrifying. She didn't want to get married. Not to Michael, not to anyone. She wanted something else, something she didn't even have words for. She wanted to see the ocean. She'd never seen the ocean. She grew up in Pennsylvania, gone to college in Pennsylvania, was about to marry and die in Pennsylvania. She wanted to travel. She wanted to teach somewhere else. She wanted to know what it felt like to be alone, to make her own choices, not to be Sarah Mitchell from Meadowbrook who married Michael Connor like everyone expected. She wanted to be someone else. And sitting in those woods 20 minutes before walking down the aisle, she made a choice. A terrible choice, a selfish choice, a choice that would hurt everyone she loved, but a choice that felt like the only way to breathe. She stood up, she walked deeper into the woods, she walked for 3 miles until she reached a highway. She stuck out her thumb, a truck stopped. "Where are you headed?" the driver asked. Sarah looked at her wedding dress, at the dirt on the hem, at the life she was leaving behind. "West," she said, "as far west as you're going." The driver, an elderly woman, looked at her for a long moment. "You're running from something or towards something, honey?" Sarah thought about it. "Both," she said. The woman nodded. "Get in." Sarah Mitchell disappeared that day, but a woman named Catherine Wright emerged. She used a fake name, paid cash for everything, worked odd jobs across the country, waitress, farmhand, store clerk. She made it to Oregon 6 months later, found work at a small school in a coastal town, taught kindergarten under a false name. She never contacted her family, never called, never wrote. She told Michael that she thought about it every single day, that she picked up the phone 1,000 times, that she wrote letters she never sent. But every time, she stopped. Because what would she say? "I'm alive, I'm sorry, I chose myself over all of you"? How do you come back from that? So, she didn't. She built a new life, made new friends who didn't know who she was, taught children who called her Miss Catherine. She never married, never had children. She lived alone in her cottage by the sea for 38 years. When Sarah finished her story, Michael sat in silence. The tea had gone cold, the sun had set. Finally, he spoke. "Why now?" he asked. "After 38 years, why tell me now?" Sarah looked at him with tears in her eyes. "Because I'm dying," she said. Cancer, stage 4. 6 months, maybe less. And I couldn't die without you knowing that what happened wasn't about you. You didn't do anything wrong. You were perfect. That was the problem. You were what everyone expected, and I didn't know how to tell you or anyone that I wanted something different. So I ran, and I've been running ever since." Michael's eyes filled with tears. 38 years of questions, of wondering, of hoping, of grief, all answered in one afternoon. "Did you ever love me?" he asked. "Yes," Sarah said, without hesitation. "I loved you. I still do. Just not the way a wife should love a husband. I loved you the way you love someone who's safe, who's familiar, who's home. But I didn't want safe. I wanted everything else." "Did you find it? Everything else?" Michael asked. Sarah smiled sadly. "I found the ocean," she said. "I found myself. I found peace. But I also found loneliness, guilt, regret for hurting you, for hurting my family. I found freedom, Michael, but freedom is heavy, heavier than I thought it would be." They sat together until midnight, talking, not about what could have been, but about what was. Sarah showed him photos of her life, the student she had taught, the places she had seen, the person she had become. Michael showed her photos of his life, the gas station, his nieces and nephews, the quiet, steady life he'd built. Before he left, Michael asked one more question. "Do you regret it, running?" Sarah thought for a long time. "I regret hurting you," she said. "I regret not being brave enough to tell the truth before the wedding day. I regret the coward's way out. But do I regret choosing the life I wanted over the life everyone expected? No, I don't. And I'm sorry if that's not the answer you need." Michael stood, walked to the door, turned back. "I forgive you," he said. "I forgave you 38 years ago, Sarah. I just needed to know you were alive, and now I do." He left that night, drove back to Pennsylvania. Sarah died 3 months later, in her cottage by the sea, alone, but on her own terms. Michael attended her funeral, the only person there who knew who she really was. He stood by her grave and finally said goodbye to the girl he'd waited for at the altar 38 years earlier. This is the true story of Sarah Mitchell, the woman who disappeared on her wedding day, not because of murder, not because of kidnapping, not because of tragedy, because she chose herself. In 1986, in a small town where everyone knew everyone, where women were expected to marry their high school sweethearts and raise children and live the life that was planned for them, Sarah Mitchell chose differently. Was she right? Was she wrong? That's not for me to decide. That's not for you to decide. What we do know is this: Michael Connor lived a good life. He found peace. He forgave. Sarah Mitchell lived the life she wanted. She found freedom. She paid the price. 2 lives, 2 very different paths, both shaped by one choice on one morning in June 1986. Before you judge her, ask yourself, have you ever felt trapped by expectations? Have you ever wanted to run? Have you ever chosen yourself when everyone expected you to choose differently? Sarah Mitchell's story is uncomfortable because it forces us to ask hard questions about duty, about selfishness, about freedom, about the price we pay for the lives we choose. There are no easy answers. There never are. But there is truth. And the truth is, some people are remembered for staying. Some people are remembered for leaving. Sarah Mitchell was remembered for both: the bride who vanished, the woman who found herself, and the man who waited 38 years for goodbye. I want to hear from you. If you were in Sarah's position that morning, knowing you were about to marry someone good, someone kind, but knowing it wasn't what you wanted, what would you have done? Would you have gone through with it? Would you have called it off? Or would you have run? Drop your honest answer in the comments. No judgment, just truth. And if this story made you think, made you feel, made you question, hit that like button and share it with someone who needs to hear it. Subscribe for more true stories that challenge everything you thought you knew about love, choice, and what it means to live an authentic life. Thank you for watching. Thank you for listening. Thank you for thinking.